Okay. So Irina, I'm Lori, Cajka, Lockney. We're the ones that have talked. And this is my uncle, Tom Cajka.
Cajka.
Cajka, that's right.
Right? You say Cajka?
Yeah, it's Cajka. Actually, Cajka is a common last name too, but mainly in the Bohemian region, there is a lot of Cajkas. But the Cajka definitely come from the Moravské Slovácko area. So it's specific for Moravia, that last name. I don't know any Cajkas from Bohemia.
That's interesting because I have always said my name Cajka. And yet my husband, when he married me, he said the way you pronounce it. And he's Irish. So he just said that's what it looks like to me. So that's why
Yeah,
I'm
because
saying my name incorrectly all these years.
Yeah, the
No.
A is A.
I will tell you why that happened. We have Cajkas here, Cejka. When my dad came here, everybody knew Cajkas, and they started calling us Cajka. So it became a name. In fact, sometimes they someone else was spelling it. They would say Cej instead of Caj,
Right.
and that still happens to me sometimes. But yes, we are Cajkas and not Cajkas.
It happens to me a lot here too. Yeah, it's like being and I have somewhat uncomfortable question, but yeah, I get a lot of the Cajka here as well, because people in Bohemia also with my name, they will oftentimes say Cajkova, and yet it's Cajkova. So I have to correct people because it's not so common here in Bohemia. Yeah. And
the other
you guys,
thing I saw was that they were saying CZJKA was from Russia. There's a bunch of them in Montana, where my husband's from. And I don't even know how they pronounce it, but I think it was like CZJKA or something like that. So
the CZ sounds very, that's Polish usually, the CZ. But the Russians, because Cajka is a bird, it's a seagull.
it is a bird. It is a bird.
Yeah, it's a seagull.
That's what we've always said. Yes.
Yeah. And the Russians, for example, they have a brand of watches called Cajka.
She said they had watches.
I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Called
Yeah, I don't know
Cajka,
if
and
you
my
can-
dad actually got one when he was in.
No, not Cajka, Cajka.
Cajka, sorry.
Cajka.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so that's really exciting. So I tried to send you our family tree. My Uncle Tom is my dad's Ernie's brother, and my dad passed away in 2006. So Grandpa Cajka, John Cajka, came to America when we think he was 15 or 16.
He was 17 and came in 1911 or 1910. And there were 3 brothers over here and 3 stayed there. So I just visited, my wife and I, my daughter and her husband. We were there, I guess it was 3 years ago, basically down in Hodin, Strasnic, and Velka na Veličku. That's where my dad was born. And
Yeah.
Now, did you say you are Moravian also?
Yeah, my father Cajka is. And he is from Wrocław, which is not far from where your family is. It's exactly the same. It's the same region. The distances are not very far. And, maybe at some point we could, if I get to talk to your family, it would be good if my dad could also join us so that they could discuss. some of the family history, because
would be
they are
so
from
good.
they are from the same region. So I
See, that
wonder,
would
you
be
know,
so-
like,
We
yeah,
might
so
all be part of the same tribe.
I believe so. I believe so, definitely. And it would be nice to find out, you know, like how far we go, where the connection is. But
We were
it must be.
saying, Irina, that you look like Tom, daughter, Debbie. Like there's such a family between us, we'll have to send you a picture of Debbie because you have
Yeah.
somewhat of a family look, besides that. So I think I wrote you that unfortunately Lubos passed away. And so Eva was my grandpa. How do you say her name? Cajka? Cajka. That was the youngest sister that was born after Grandpa Cajka came to America. So I think our family started really talking to them and writing to them in the 60s. And then Tom and Carol and my dad and mom came to Czech Republic in like 1987. It was before was it after the Velvet Revolution?
No. It was just before. I think it happened in October. We were there in August.
And then Lubos and his mother, which Maria would be Tom's first cousin, they came here for 3 months. And we were in Washington, D.C., so they stayed with us 2 weeks, came to Nebraska, went to California. So they got to see a lot of the country. And then Stan, and I think Lubos is the first, I don't know where Stan in this, but Stan was another young man that came to America and stayed with us for 3 months. So we've had some nice family interaction. And my parents spoke Czech until they were maybe 6 or 7 years old. And so they spoke they did not teach us Czech. But when we were children, if they didn't want us to know what they were talking about, they spoke in Czech. So I knew a few words.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so that's pretty nice. So how did you get to America, Irina?
I came in 1992, which was, a few years after the Velvet Revolution, and I just came for a year.
We got it.
As it happens, for a year, 30 years ago. Yeah, connection. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, yeah, I'm getting your internet connection is unstable. So I came just for a year to travel to see the States. Basically, at that time. At that time, the salaries here were maybe like $50 a month. So when I came, I had to work first, and I got a job at the Czech restaurant in the area. Because back in the 90s, there were, many more Czech places in Chicago than are there now. And so I worked in a Czech restaurant. Basically depended at the beginning on the help from the Czech community, but eventually, and I started taking English classes. I came without speaking in English or just a few
my
words.
goodness.
And that's when you're young and stupid and think you can do anything and just do things. And then I decided to go back home because I didn't stay illegally. I didn't want to overstay my visa. I was already working, but I did, which many people who did that, I'm still breaking out. But can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So good. So I didn't looks like I have a good connection, but
it's kind of up and down, but we are catching most of it, Irina. We're catching most of it.
Yeah, I don't want to switch now to a different Wi-Fi. I'm in my friend's house, and I don't know if I'm at the spot where
I know.
we'll see. we can meet then, you know, when I'm back. I'm flying back to Chicago on Friday. So we can then meet at a, you know, time at exactly the same hour also. But anyhow, so then I met this American guy and I returned back to the Czech Republic, and he eventually followed me, and we lived, I believe, in 1994. He spent a year here in the Czech Republic, and then we decided to get married, and so that I could, you know, stay legally. And I went and stayed, and he said, well, you know, if you don't want to be a waitress for the rest of your life, you should probably go to school here. So I started studying, and then eventually ended up studying at the University of Chicago, where I now teach.
That's
And
wonderful.
I now teach Czech too since last year. I've been teaching Spanish for all these years, but last year I started teaching Czech.
Oh,
So,
what a wonderful
so
story.
that's good. Yeah, that now I can kind of, you
Well,
know,
maybe
when
someday
I,
you can come to Wahoo, Nebraska and meet all of us. We would love that. My mother is Gladys. She was a Mushek, Masek,
Mhm.
and she's done a lot of genealogy studies on her family side. But we have a family cookbook from Mushek's side that I'm going to mail to you. So you will have
Awesome.
that. But we'd love for you to come here and meet all of us. And
I would love to. Yeah. Can I ask you, is Wilbur is Nebraska too?
yes, Wilbur, Nebraska is probably
It's 40 miles.
maybe 40 miles. They have a big Czech festival.
Yeah, because
And
yeah, I've heard about that. Yes. Yeah. So I wanted to check that out too.
well, Saunders County here is very Czech. You know, I mean, we're Catholic Czechs. And so, you know, when I grew up, most of my parents' friends all spoke Czech. You know, it was my generation. I graduated from high school in 1971. It was that generation that they kind of stopped teaching words or language to us, but we knew we were Czech. You know, I don't know if these are the right words, but we knew Peshina was a blanket and Sharthek was a scarf.
Yep.
And I know a few bad words in Czech that I won't say.
Good,
I'm
good.
sure your students do that too.
I probably know those words as well. So yeah. That's good. That's
But my
good.
fast story is we farmed with my grandpa, how do we say it, Cajka? We farmed with my grandpa who has hurt his dad. So he spoke mostly Czech, and he was always yelling at me that I left my bicycle in front of the barn door. And I knew enough Czech when he was upset. So he came in the house, and I thought he told my mother that he ran over my bicycle. And I was just crying, and I was in the bedroom. My mother's like, "What are you crying?" I said, "Grandpa said he ran over my bike." He said, "No." He said, "He's going to run over it if I leave it there one more time." So we got to be really raised, you know, with sauerkraut and dumplings and pork chops. And the big thing here is kolaches. Am I saying that the right way?
Yeah, kolache. Mhm.
Kolache. So what is the real way to make kolaches? What, you know, we have like this you know, like the dough. It's kind of a sweet dough and you put it, that stuff. Is that how it looks like in Czech Republic?
Yeah, you put a filling, but the dough, you know, I saw in Chicago, they use different kind of dough. The typical one is the dough that needs to sit and rise, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of a dough. And yeah, and then the fillings I see in the States a lot, just like apricot jelly in it or something like that. We don't do that here. The typical fillings are either like, you know, the sweet farmer's cheese, poppy seed,
Yep.
and then what we call povidla, which is made out of plums. It's like a, you know, that dark plum jelly, but it's prepared a little bit differently. So it's not really the jelly that you would put on a bread, you know, like it's different, a little bit runnier, not as sugary, not as sweet. So these are the typical fillings. Like but also kolache can be made with fresh fruit, you know, when it's in season. So yeah, and you know, the typical collage is the round one, right? Yeah. So that's that. So you bake those, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's a big thing here. Who does the best collages? So
That's great. And when are some like typical festivals or festivities that you have in Nebraska?
what kind of festivals do we have here?
Well, they do
And
have,
when? Like
all
when
the
would be a good time?
churches, all the churches have them. And since most of the churches around here are mostly Czech, they always have kolaches and things like that at them. And that's all summer long. No, we have the town break here, and this was a while back that, you know, they're, and some of them have duck. That's not another big meal.
Do you
Nice.
like duck?
I love it. I love it.
Do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good meal.
You know, I usually when I'm here in the Czech Republic and I go out, you know, eat in a typical Czech restaurant, that's what I get because my mom never used to make it and my mom cooks a lot. But you know, it was it used to be, I think still is, but it used to be quite expensive. So when I was a child, we almost never had it. We would always have what do you call it? Pork, you know, roast pork with dumplings and sauerkraut.
Yes.
But the duck was very, yeah, I didn't grow up eating it. And so when I discovered it,
Did
now
Grandma
I'm a
Cajka
big
make
duck
duck?
fan.
We had, that was usually our Thanksgiving. Christmas was always duck. We never had anything else. And in between, we had a lot of duck. I like it, love it. My wife likes it. Yeah.
Good,
One more. Would you tell me the name of the town your dad came from?
Yeah, it's called Vracov.
Can you put it in the, oh, I'm
in
sorry.
the chat?
Can
I
you put
can
it in
do
the
that.
chat and then I can
Yes,
type?
yes, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'm gonna Vracov. Vracov is the small
VRA.
town. Yeah,
I'll write it down too.
yeah. And it's near, it's also, it belongs in the region of Hodonín.
Okay,
So
been there.
you know that, right? You know Hodonín, and then Kyiv is very near. And another village that's very near is Bzenec. So I remember these names from when I was a kid and used to go there. And so see, my father is from Brasov, but he moved to Bohemia. And you were telling me, Lord, you were looking at my town, Nymburk.
Yes, uh-huh.
And
Oops, I kind of got frozen again.
so my dad comes from Brasov, my mom comes from well, I'll wait a little.
Now it's
Sorry,
better.
wait.
Oh, here's another
Okay,
one.
yeah. So
Oh, I see.
my
right
mother
here.
is from this town, Poděbrady, the last one that I put in.
Okay.
And Poděbrady is in central Bohemia, maybe 40 kilometers away from Prague. And my father actually studied in this town because he studied like some electrotechnical, you know, department at the Charles University or at the technical university, and they had one of the departments actually was in town, Poděbrady. It was a Prague university, but they had like a campus in this town, Poděbrady, and that's where he met my mom. And then after they got married and I was born, it was, you know, the early 70s, and there was lack of housing. And people basically went to live where they were offered a place to live.
Yeah.
And my father was working for the railroad, and he lived with my mom in a rented apartment, very small apartment in this town, Poděbrady. And he applied, you know, to get on the list, receive housing and apartment in one of these communist apartment complexes, you know, that were built in that era, kind of. And because of the conditions that we lived in, they put my dad, they were telling me a story that basically I helped them receive the apartment, because when the come to check how people live and who reads these apartments, supposedly I was 1-year-old, and I found a box with laundry detergent, and I like spilled it all over the place, and was covered with laundry detergent. And when the committee saw that, they said, you need the apartment. So I guess that's how we got the apartment in a newly built apartment complex in the town Nymburk, which you already were looking up. And Nymburk and Poděbrady are only about 10 kilometers away. So my dad, even though he's Moravian, I grew up in Bohemia, but I used to go to Wrocław when I was a kid to visit my grandparents.
So was there a real difference, Irina, when you were Moravian, or what was the other thing you just said? Like, was there real Bohemian, was there real distinctions, or did it matter? Like, we're in Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa. We know we're different states, but it's not like that big of a deal. Now,
Yeah,
East Coast and West Coast, very different, as you know.
Yeah. To me, it's like, when you're from Kansas or Nebraska, I don't feel much of a difference there too. But when you're from Nebraska and New York, there is a difference. And that's kind of the difference between, Bohemia, at least central Bohemia, and Moravia. It's agriculture versus industry. It's wine versus beer. So it's also the music, the folklore. Religion is definitely stronger in Moravia than in Bohemia. The traditions, the national, the kroje, the kroje, right? Those dresses.
Right.
That's something typical for Moravia. You don't see much of it in Bohemia. The language, of course, the dialect, you basically you can tell immediately that somebody is from Moravia.
And the Moravians and the Slovaks there's a difference there.
Yeah, well, while the Moravians, you would consider them an ethnic group, just like the Czechs, Slovaks are a different nationality. So that's a completely different country. Their language, Slovaks don't speak a dialect, they speak a language, a different language. But the region where your family and my dad's family is from is actually called so Moravia in Czech is Morava, right? And so that's the whole. You have southern Moravia, you have northern Moravia, right? There is also differences between those two. But where we come from, that area is called Moravské Slovácko. Moravské is the adjective from Morava. And Slovácko is the region, but I'm also going to write here, Slovensko is Slovakia. So it's not quite the same thing. But the Moravské Slovácko is right there, very close to Slovakia. And my father was even telling me an interesting thing, that there is a village, I forget the name, but there is a village in the Moravian Slovácko where people are unable to pronounce the letter, that's typical Czech letter, ž. But for example, Slovak doesn't have it. And that in this Moravian region, where they should speak Czech, meaning they should know this letter ž, there is a village where they don't even, like for example, the number 3 would be tři, but in this region, in this village, which is, really in the Czech Republic, but they would just say like tri, just like the Slovaks would. So the Moravské Slovácko is definitely a mixture, and even the last name Cajka, there is more Cajkas in Slovakia, but again in Bohemia it's Cajka, right? But we are Cajka with the A.
So, and I have to learn my name over at age 68.
Never too late.
Never too late, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, did you see a real difference after the Velvet Revolution? That happened in 1987, correct?
89.
Yeah.
if I saw a difference between the Czechs and
Yeah,
the Slovaks or in
before,
general.
no, just in general, before and after the Velvet Revolution.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah. Every year, you know, so I came in 92. It was still very much just like, you know, back in the 80s, like everything was very gray here. All the historical buildings, you know, were unkept. And every year when I would return in the 90s, I didn't come as often here because of money situation. You know, I couldn't afford to travel as much. I was a student, but I would come maybe every 2-3 years, and you know, I could tell just great differences. Like things were changing. Prague was becoming prettier. Houses started to have colors. Then of course, you know, the shops offer different things. So yeah, so things started improving economically, definitely. Yeah, but then, you know, now politically, look at us. We are back where we were 30 years ago, you know, with the
What
Yeah.
goes around kind of comes around, right?
and it's kind of sad, you know, how quickly people forget. And now we have a president who's Russian leaning, you know, 30 years after kicking the Russians out of the country. Finally, now we are kind of
Back.
there. Yeah. So
Well,
we'll see. There's elections next month, so people are hoping something will change. But yeah,
Well,
but definitely, you know, just it's definitely, I mean, it's better. People, you don't really have poverty here, you know. Even the poor people, even the people who don't have a lot, are still American middle class, you know, kind of like uh, sure, the salaries are still a lot smaller here and stuff, but you know, the average income, but I don't really see, you know, poor people here, just like you would in the States, even.
I
So.
know that I noticed a big difference from when we were there visiting family in 1988 and 3 years ago. And most of my relation, they're either in business or something, which wasn't true before. So, quite different, I think.
Kind of how I got connected with Irina is, you know, my husband and I live outside of New York City. So I used to go there to the Czech Cultural Center, and they
Okay.
would have those events. And I went to the Tribeca Film Festival, and this is back like in the early 2000s, and there was two young Czech producers that did a show called Sen, Sen. It was I'll have to see if I can find the link, but it was a documentary about how capitalism came into Czech Republic. It was funny, but these
Was
two
it-
guys.
Was it the one where they made that fake
Yes,
supermarket?
they made a
kind of-
fake mall.
Yeah, it was called Český sen, the Czech
Oh, no.
dream.
Oh, that's what it was. I'll have to take a picture. I've been
The Czech
trying to
dream,
find
yeah.
that because I'm
I
thinking
love, yeah. I loved it. I thought
that
it
was
was
so funny.
very, yeah.
And I actually got to meet the two young men. They were at the Tribeca, and we just had this lovely time. And I thought they just looked like they came off from the Nebraska farm. You know, they just looked like us. I mean, they were really fun people, really a lot.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Irina, because they told me you did that thing that was from your school, wasn't it? The Chicago, when I came to that seminar you did, that speaker.
Yeah, that was Peter Sees, right?
Yeah.
And how did you, him, and how did you hear about that? How did
I
you find
think
out
it
about
was that I'm on the email blurb from the Czech Cultural Center in New York. And they told me about it.
Okay.
So I try to go to those quite often. You know, since COVID, I haven't been able to. New York was it's getting open now, but it was just closed up. So,
But you go often to New York, or?
well, long story short, we've been living there for like, you know, the last 20, 25 years. So we're just across the river. So we're 30 minutes from New York City, but we've been spending time in Mesa. And with COVID, not to bore you, but with COVID-19, I was the COVID-19 compliance manager for a compromised nursing home outside of Pittsburgh. So I was there 11 months. So, who knows where I'm from now, but we are moving to New Mexico. We bought 150 acres. So you have to come over there too.
Good.
We're
Well,
gonna
I need
build
to
a
get,
house on our land.
but right now you are in Nebraska, yeah?
In Nebraska visiting my family. My
Great.
mom lives here, all my brothers and sisters and cousins. Yesterday with my cousin Colette, we went to the Omaha Dorley Zoo. They do have some very nice Czech museums here and cultural centers. So when you come, we'll have to make it a time which would really be with some of these festivals that you might be interested. So we'd love for you to come
that
and
would
be
be
our
great.
guest here. That would be great fun.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd love that. Yeah. And if you ever, if you're heading to Chicago anytime soon, let us know too. And
Okay, I love Chicago. I've
and
been there
actually-
many times for business.
good. I have to take you to our Czech school and show you the
Love
Czech
that.
area, show you the Pilsen neighborhood, which was, the old Czech neighborhood. So, and then I'm thinking of maybe flying to New York if it will be possible at all. We'll see how things turn out. But right before Thanksgiving that week, because I'm friends with the guy who runs the Czech Center.
Oh, wow.
Miroslav Konvalina, and we've been talking for a long time, that I would visit. And he was telling me that I believe on the 2nd of November, they're doing some European literature night, or something like
interesting.
this. And so I was saying that I might, because at the university, we actually have a week off around Thanksgiving. So I was thinking that I might go to New York. So if you're going to be in
Oh,
the
yeah,
area.
I'd love to come and meet you. My other
Good.
funny story is my two sisters. Do you know who Bruce Springsteen is? Okay, so
I
my
love
two
Bruce. I'm
sisters
a
love
big
Bruce.
fan.
So I bought them tickets to see Bruce on Broadway. And that night, I didn't go see him. I went to the Czech Center because there was an actual, so I loved it. Also, we got to see, do you know the gentleman, Sir Vinton, that did The Power of Good?
Yeah,
Why the
well,
wor-
yeah. Well, Peter Stees did the book on him, right? The
Yes.
illustrated book. That was, yeah.
So I was the COO of Jewish Community Housing Corporation, and at Seton Hall University, they actually had about 10 of those children, and one of the producers from Prague who talked about all the historical that Sir Vinton did. Powerful story.
Yeah,
Powerful.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Okay.
That's
well,
great.
we know it's 9 o'clock in Czech Republic, so that must mean it's almost 10. So we really thank you for staying up this late or interrupting your evening with your friends.
No problem. But
Can we
yeah,
just ask one other question? How is it with COVID-19 in Czech Republic?
so actually the whole summer I've been here, you have to wear the mask, and not just the mask. They require, not those masks that people saw at home.
Yeah, no cloth.
We need to have they call it the respirator. It's like the
The N95s.
something like that. So you have to use that for all public places, shops, public transportation, all summer. They because the Czechs, things were very good here last year. People very quickly started sewing those masks, and last summer I was here, and it was as if COVID did not exist. And then they got people got kind of like arrogant about it, took it not too seriously, and bang, there was a wave last September, October. And then they again opened up right before Christmas, and that was a big mistake that now the government is criticized for a lot, because around February such a strong wave hit here that we are actually from one of the best countries that handled COVID. We are one of the worst in Europe, definitely worse, and even like in the world. Too many people died here, like 30,000 people died just in that wave. And even like the old Minister of Health is saying that they didn't have to die had the government not allowed to open it up before Christmas for 2 weeks, which was kind of useless. People were already used to the lockdown, and then they just opened it up to look good. and that cost, you know, many people their lives. So since then they did not really the masks did not go away even all summer. So, and we'll see, you know, right now it's I think right now the situation is worse in the States with the numbers, but for example with vaccinations it's the same here. The country is divided.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very hot topic in America. We have a lot of good friends in Israel, and they're kind of going through the same thing again. So yeah, it's a very interesting time we're all living through. Very interesting.
Yeah, and unfortunately it's all, you know, it's politicized. I mean, that's the problem, where, you know, your political opinion affects
Yep.
your medical choices. Yeah.
And I learned, do not talk about politics on Facebook, or you will lose the last few friends you have. I'm just kidding, but it's not the right place to do that. So.
No, I mean, discussing anything on Facebook is not a good thing.
I
It's
know,
not a place where, you know, because
I know. I just
there's-
talk about my bicycling trips and.
that's all I do. I put my pictures from my trip, and you know.
Yeah, and your pictures are beautiful. I've been showing them to my mother. So if I have time here, I'll show them to Tom and Carol as well. So we're getting to see Czech Republic through yours. Now, are you there with the school? Or is this just all kind of vacation? Or are you doing this with the school group?
No. This was basically my summer break. I've been working on some projects, but you know, I don't have to teach. But I am going back. We're starting next week, so I'm heading back. Yeah, we're starting at the Czech school on Saturday, and then at the university. At the university, I think we start on the 28th of September. So
you have a really full plate for yourself. So.
yeah,
Okay,
I
well,
like it. I like it.
Okay.
I got a question. Does your dad talk English at all, or?
He speaks some. He is much better in German, but you know, because he didn't really have a chance to practice. He loves languages. Because of him, I got into languages, but his English is not that great. Like he would say, you know, if you speak slowly to him, he will understand some and will say some. So yeah, but it would be nice to get together at some point, all of us. Yeah.
About like I would talk Czech.
Good. Yeah. So I will look at those documents that you sent, and you know, we'll try to do some. We'll ask my dad too, and we'll try to do some research. We'll realize that I mean, I'm sure we are related. I mean, there is no way we could not be. So.
Right? Oh, you're just delightful. We really thank you for your time. We will share this with some of our relatives that couldn't be here today. So I know they're going to really enjoy this talk we've had. So
good. Yeah, and we can do another
see you.
reunion soon.
Yeah, and so hopefully we might see you in New York, and we'll invite you to come here to Nebraska. We'll figure out a time where there's some festivals and some cultural things. And
I would love that. And of course, you know, I tend to come to the Czech Republic every summer now. So if you ever decide to come here, I'll show you around.
To. Yep. So, okay. Well, thank you so much. And we will see you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was fun. Okay, hang on. Let's see if I can do this.